crazy long hours. I work 1 in 3 weekends. I have no life at the moment, and honestly, things have suffered. Most lucrative specialty for private work. What are the duties of an F1 doctor? But I do know where I'm not heading. So at the moment, I've ruled out medicine. Hey. So I've just hit a whopping 20,000 followers on Instagram and 12,000 followers on TikTok. And to celebrate, I'm going to be doing a Q&A, personal, doctor related, everything. How old were you when you became a doctor? Right now I'm 24 years old, and when I finished med school, I was 23 years old. I did a 6-year course and I'm the youngest in the year, so that's why I was 23 years old. But if I did a 5-year course, like the normal medicine course, which is 5 years, I would have actually been 22 years old and probably been one of the youngest in the country to be a doctor. That's a crazy thought. What would you have done if you didn't study medicine? That's a tough question. One of my interests is in marketing. I love designing things. I love engaging customers. I love learning about the behavioral psychology. So what makes a consumer buy something or do something? That is so interesting to me. Do you have any tips for medical students starting soon in September? Yes, I actually have quite a lot of tips for you guys, so listen up. You don't have to score top of the top at your med school to become a good doctor. Remember, med school is bloody tough, so even if you're passing with just the bare minimum, that's an achievement on its own. Now, if you want to study and you want to get those distinctions, fair enough, you do you. But it's also important to make sure that you enjoy med school. You're not going to get that time of your life back. So you want to make sure you make the most out of it. Scoring high in your med school exams doesn't always correlate to you being a good doctor anyway, because there's so many components that go into it. And even for specialty training applications, your score in med school doesn't really matter. You've got your portfolio, publications, posters, and future sort of postgraduate exams that count towards that. Some of the top specialists may not have even performed the best in their med school. In fact, they might have even failed an exam. Which brings me on to point number 2. It's okay to fail an exam here or there. Obviously, if you're failing all your exams, that's not a good thing. But if you fail one exam and you have to resit, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't impact you at all or your clinical practice. In 1 year, I remember seeing, I think the majority, it was like 70–80% of the year, failed their exam and had to resit. Don't find time for hobbies, make time for hobbies. Med school is demanding. They're obviously going to overburden you with all of these things, but it's your job to make time for your hobbies, what you're into, whether that's gym, whether that's socializing, whether that's partying, joining a society, playing sports, music, anything. Make time. It is critical. Your life should not be just medicine and revolve around medicine. It shouldn't be like that. Remember, you're a human being too, just like other people. Don't be a snake. Don't be that person that gatekeeps all the resources, especially from your friends. I mean, come on, they're your friends. You should be sharing resources, working together. After all, you're all in the same boat. So work together and you'll end up performing better and only motivate each other rather than snaking and being like, oh yeah, I'm not revising, I'm not doing anything. Unless, of course, you aren't doing anything. That's fair enough. I'm just saying don't lie. Try out as many societies as you can. Just experiment, because a lot of your lifelong friends will be made from these societies. And even if you don't like playing the sport, let's say you join men's football, don't like playing football, that's all right. Just go. There's going to be multiple people there that aren't that good at football, and you don't have to play football. You can just go to the socials and network from there. I'd definitely say like try out a lot, and then just stick with one of them or two of them that you fancy and get along with people the most. What jobs are better to have in F2 than in F1? I'd say 2 jobs in particular. The first is any community job, so GP or psychiatry, things like that. And the reason is that when you do them, you're mostly working 9 to 5s, and there's little unsocial hours, which means that you're going to be on base pay. In F1, if you're in a community placement, your take home will be about £2,000, maybe even less. And as an F2, obviously your salary is a bit higher than an F1, so it's more tolerable if you're on base salary than in F1. Second thing I would say is doing surgery. Surgery, you know, as a junior, you're mostly going to be on the wards, but as an F2, you're probably going to be more experienced, so you'll be able to get your jobs done earlier, you'll be able to see your patients, and that way you'll be able to go to theatres because you have a bit more time. That's one thing. Secondly, I think in a lot of places, you're going to be allocated more theatre time as an F2 than you would be as an F1, as you're expected to be mostly on, you know, on the wards. So surgery is definitely a better thing to have in F2. It's not the end of the world if you can only get it in F1. I have it in F1 and I get some scheduled theatre time for 1 session a month, and I'm able to go into theatres on other days too if I finish my jobs earlier. Do you have to study a lot in your free time as a doctor? Not really, actually. That stress that you have in med school, where if you're doing something in your back of your mind, you go like, well, there's an exam coming up in a few months, I have to, you know, you feel guilty of not revising. That kind of pressure isn't there. You know, when you go home, you're like, okay, you can leave medicine behind, you can think about whatever you want. That's one good thing. And you're not always dreading or thinking about, well, oh, do I know this, do I know that for your job in the morning. You can just wake up and rock up to work, and that's that. That being said, when you're applying to specialty training posts, then obviously you'll have to revise for exams, so that will come in the future. What are the duties of an F1 doctor? So this really varies depending on what specialty you're in. If you're in something like you know, psychiatry, it'll be very consultant led, so they'll be doing you know, the ward round, and you'll just be documenting and then dealing with any patient concerns that they have. There's less doctoring as an F1 in those specialties. If you're in medicine, you're on the wards, and so obviously the consultant would be leading the ward round, and then you would be doing the jobs, whether that's, I've written this down actually, so that'd be clinical skills like ABGs, bloods, cannulas, catheters, drains. You'd be requesting any scans that need to be done, prescribing medications, documenting everything. You'd be acting upon what these scans and the blood test results showed. So if there's any electrolyte abnormalities, you'd correct those. You would refer patients to other specialties and liaise with them, you know, those specialties, and then follow out their plan. You would also update families and patients, and if there's any patient concerns on the ward, you would go review them. If they've got like a chest infection, like you sort that out. If they've got like a, I don't know, some dermatological condition, maybe you give them a cream or something. So those kind of issues that you deal with. And if you're on surgery, surgery is very, very junior led. Consultants are obviously doing the surgeries, and the registrars are also, you know, doing surgery as well. So it's very junior led, and so that means doing your own ward rounds, seeing the patient, documenting everything, formulating a clinical management plan, and then also carrying out the plan. That's all on you as an F1, which is crazy. Within my first week of doing so, I was looking after 14 patients on my own, seeing them, making everything. It's crazy, crazy responsibility. And if you send someone home, which you're meant to, if you send them home and they have an issue, then that's on you. You get screwed. Orthopedics has taken a toll on me. It has stopped me from doing so much extracurricular stuff, and when I finish, I am absolutely knackered after work. It is so draining. But the one thing that has helped, one of the key things, is long-term part of the channel, Magic Mind. If you guys haven't tried it out, you must try it out. It is absolutely incredible. What it does is basically a nootropics-based drink. You give it a little shake, and it basically energizes me and keeps me going throughout the day. No fluff. As a doctor, you know, these kind of things, we don't believe it unless we see evidence. And I've seen the research for it. The ingredients that are in this are effective for that purpose. More importantly, they work for me. And so I make sure when I'm in the morning, open that fridge and get the Magic Mind. Honestly, I could not do without this. Highly, highly recommend it. It's a matcha based drink that you can basically drink it direct like I do. You can put it in coffee, you can drink it cold with some ice, so many different variations. And the great thing is I've got a 20% off discount code for you guys using Devify. I've now been using this for about a year, which is a crazy long time. I've enjoyed it, it's worked for me. So you do your research, try it out. If you don't like it, just ask for a refund and they'll give you back the money, 100% guaranteed. What specialty are you leaning towards? What a good question. Okay, so to be honest, I don't know. I'm a confused individual. I don't know where I'm heading right now, but I do know where I'm not heading. So at the moment, I've ruled out medicine. What I mean by that is the medical specialties, not medicine as a whole profession. And the reason is because for 4 years, you're just doing service provision. You're doing the same job on repeat. As an F1, an F2, an IMT1 and an IMT2, we're all doing the same thing. The only thing is these guys, the IMT2s, are more experienced than me and they're better clinical decision makers, etc, etc. But the job role, the description on its own is the exact same. There's nothing different. It's pure service provision. The first specialty I'd say I'm interested in is GP. The reason being is it's 3 years till you CCT, so complete your training after F2. So I can become a GP by 29. And there's a lot of leeway with what you can do while being a GP. You can go part-time and open a business on the side. You can pursue other projects if you want. You can also become a GP partner. There's a lot of good stuff you can do with the GP, and it's core medicine, because in the hospital we become reliant on scans. You know, you hear a crackle or two, someone's short of breath, just do a chest X-ray. Then the radiologist tells you, oh, there's pneumonia or whatever. You know, you rely on those scans a bit too much, whereas in GP, you have to be so good at being able to tell what people have from just talking to them and examining them. It's pure medicine in my eyes. That's, you know, one thing I like about GP. The second specialty I'm interested in, I'd say, is radiology. It's a run-through training program, so it's none of that service provision BS. You can go straight into radiology without doing other stuff, and you learn, right? And in 5 years, you're done. So it's less than the 7 or 8 years you'd have to do whilst pursuing a medical specialty. The only thing with radiology is it's not as much patient contact that I'd like. So one thing is interventional radiology, where you can do these procedures under image guidance, ultrasound, X-ray, CT, which is so cool. It's basically minimally invasive surgery. So that's one thing I'm looking into. The third thing I'd say is surgery. And I know I said I don't want to, you know, the hours of medicine. Surgery is obviously a lot worse and it's a lot more intense. But the thing is, it's fun. And there's less of that service provision BS. You know, you can be a surgeon, it's cool. I'm an ortho right now, and you know, ortho is basically bone surgery for those of you guys that don't know. And it's just fun, man. You do a hip operation, you do a knee surgery, and the patient is instantly happy after it, and they can walk. They're so thankful and respectful. It seems like a great specialty. The people seem fun. The only thing is the hours, because you're doing 48-hour weeks, that's contracted, but realistically you have to come in earlier than you're supposed to see your patients. The surgery's overrun, and then you have to see your patients as well afterwards. And so realistically, you're easily working 50-60-hour weeks, unpaid, you know, for 10, 12 of them, which is not nice. Speaking of, thoughts on becoming a GP in the UK. The only thing that's stopping me from becoming a GP right now is that the public doesn't really value the work of GPs. The funding's going like this. The number of GPs are going like this, but the number of patients that they're seeing is going straight up. So GPs are offering more appointments than ever before, but they're being paid far less for it. So the government doesn't really value GPs, and they use GPs as a way to you know, take the blame for everything, and the public happily goes, yeah, it's the GP's fault. And the second thing is the introduction of medically associated professionals. So these are non-doctors who are being essentially replacing the GPs with obviously far less clinical training. And at the end of the day, the GP takes responsibility for whatever those professionals do, even though they might not have been involved in the care. And I don't know, it's seeing an undifferentiated patient, I think, should only be for GPs because they're medically qualified. Once a patient has been seen, I think it's fair enough for other professionals to take over care, if you know it's within their scope of training. How many hours do you work as a doctor? The hours really varies depending on what specialty you're in and what hospital you're in. So when I was doing psychiatry, I was on a 9-to-5 job. I'd have, you know, bank holidays off. It was a very, very relaxed lifestyle. I was on basic pay, but it was good. You know, there was 40-hour weeks, and it was okay. Then I went to medicine. Medicine had lots of weekends, on calls, nights, all that good stuff. And I was working 44-hour average weeks. Then I went on to trauma and orthopedics, where I am right now. And that is intense, man. It's intense. Here's my timetable. I'm working basically every week, doing either 6 days a week, or 1 week I'm working 60 hours with 3 long days, and then 1 week I'm working 4 days a week. So it's crazy long hours. I work 1 in 3 weekends. I have no life at the moment, and honestly, things have suffered. Because when on my off time I have to do all these projects, I have to keep up with my social media, and my gym has been lacking now, and it really sucks. Are custom scrubs worth it? 100% they're worth it, man. I love my custom scrubs. I have so many of them. I hate NHS scrubs, mostly because of the pockets. They suck. I don't know where to put my phone or keys or anything. Things just keep falling out all the time. Plus, it looks kind of unprofessional because you're so big and baggy, and you're in there. It's just, I hate it. I did make a video on this, by the way. If you're interested in getting any custom scrubs, go check out this video. It's got some of the top brands, and I've done a comparison, and there are discount codes up there. Most lucrative specialty for private work. That's a good question. So in the UK, most consultants would work in the NHS and then do private in their spare time or their rest time, and so it's pretty demanding to be able to do that. The reason is because it's good to have networks in the NHS, because once you're there, then you can get referrals for your private work, etc, etc. And NHS basically makes you, if you're working for the NHS, you have to work, do a full contract most of the time, or do a heavy contract in the NHS. It's not easy to do private work, is what I'm trying to get at. It's very hard to go completely private in the UK. In terms of the specialties, I would say more so the procedural specialties. They do quite well in the private sector. So that would be things like cardiology, gastroenterology, dermatology, also the surgical specialties, so ortho, ENT, plastics, and pretty much all surgical specialties. Urology is another good one. Ophthalmology is wonderful for private work, very, very good. Just do cataract surgeries, takes like 10 minutes and you can make bank. The ophthalmologists are chilling, I know that. Also, radiology is pretty good as well for private work. Is there an enhanced rate for night shift? Yeah, actually there is. So for night shift hours, you get 37% on top of your base salary. Night shift hours, I believe, are from 7 or 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. And so I currently am paid £15.5 per hour. So my night shift hours would be, pay would be £22 per hour. And obviously as your grade of doctor goes up, so does your pay. And so therefore your night pay would also get higher. That about wraps up the video, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy. Make sure you drop a like down below and subscribe. With that said, peace out.